Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another Change Truth podcast. My name is Carl. I am the host, and today I'm speaking with a guy named Tom, who is probably better known as YourMateTom. He has a YouTube channel under that name where he talks about his experiences with psychedelic drugs. He shares knowledge about how to prepare and best use these substances, basically as a harm reduction strategy, so people can be as safe as possible when using these things. But he also discusses the insights and sort of benefits that he's gained from some of these things. So I definitely suggest checking out his channel. It is YourMateTom on YouTube. And also I wanted to say, check out my Patreon page. I've just launched it. I'm just warming up to different things I can do on there. It's kind of fun. And it's patreon.com/changetruth. And if you want to support this podcast in a very minor and simple and direct way, you can go there and do just that. So check it out. And on this conversation, we get into Tom and I, a lot of different psychedelic sort of conversation, but near the end, we get into some of the more challenging and difficult experiences that he's had with high dose mushrooms and also DMT. So check it out. This is me and your mate Tom.
It can be pretty terrifying putting yourself out there, especially for something that's so stigmatized and people judge you for. But you know what? The reason why I started this channel really was from my first ayahuasca experience that I had. Because before that, I was like battling with depression, anxiety, and like a lot of addictive tendencies and self-destructive habits and all that kind of stuff. And I was researching ayahuasca, and I just felt the call for it. I'm like, you know what? I think this can really help me. And then I guess rest is history, but it completely changed my life forever. And I just had to talk about it, because it wasn't just my life that it transformed, but I was with at least 12 people at the retreat, and every single one of them, I just saw their transformation and was so inspirational. You know what I mean? And the fact that these plant medicines aren't as, I guess, popular as they should be was, I don't know, I just got motivated to start talking about these plant medicines, because I think the potential for them is just huge, you know what I mean? They can really help heal people. We have a lot of sick people on this planet, you know what I mean? People that need to kind of wake up. And it just really started with that. I just wanted to talk about my experiences. And I guess the underlying core mission is really to try and do my part to turn this insane world sane again, if you want to, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I saw a video you made with that, I think that in the title, and that's a good way to put it. I can relate. It's fun. It's funny though that you came out, because a lot of people, they'll have these experiences, but they won't start a YouTube channel and share them all publicly and go that far. So you must have been really inspired by that experience you had.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing about people judging you and whatnot, people are going to judge you no matter what you do. You know what I mean?
True,
so you might as well just express your authentic self, because people put these masks on day in, day out, and can be so energetically draining, you know what I mean? And this, leads to a lot of other problems in life if you don't actually express who you are and talk about what you want to talk about.
So, I mean, you tried ayahuasca, but a lot, you talk a lot about the use of mushrooms as well. Have you tried mushrooms before the ayahuasca?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, the first mushroom experience was actually one of the biggest milestones in my life. It wasn't as transformational as ayahuasca, I suppose, but it did open up those doors of perception, if you will. And that one, because before that, I was very kind of narcissistic. I didn't give a shit about nature. I had no appreciation for that stuff. I was closed-minded, and that kind of opened up the doors for that. I started thinking a bit differently. I started being more grateful for my life. I started being more empathic towards others. And it was just how I was thinking. How my perception changed is what really blew my mind, and that kind of opened up the doors and made me more curious about other psychedelics. But that was my first mushroom dose was a very low dose. It was maybe 1.5 grams.
Oh, okay, I see.
So it wasn't like a full-on heroic dose.
Hey, could you tilt your camera back a little bit? I think it's kind of cut off your head a little bit, at least on my screen.
Oh, here?
Yeah. So you use mushrooms, and they kind of put you in that direction, but it was that ayahuasca experience that really sent you to the next level, where you're just I got to talk about this. I got to share this stuff. This is important.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And I think it wasn't necessarily like just ayahuasca. It was the fact that I went to a different country. I went to a retreat. I was changing my
Oh, you did?
environment.
Oh, okay. So you didn't do it in
Yeah,
Australia. You went to somewhere else.
yeah, I went to Peru. Yeah,
Hmm.
and just getting away from this chaotic society. You know what I mean? All this stimulation and noise pollution and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So all those things played a big factor. Because
Right.
I'm sure if they have like, mushroom retreats, that could be just as powerful. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
I
just
see.
the
Yeah, I
problem
see
is
what you
that
mean.
people take mushrooms. Yeah, they might have a life changing experience, but then the next day they just go straight back to work, straight back
Right.
to the old habits. You know what I mean? So I think the integration process is the most
Yeah, it is
important
a pretty
part.
cool. I definitely can relate. Like I did ayahuasca too. I went to Peru a couple of years ago and did it. And
Oh, nice.
part of the greatness of doing it was like I was there for 8 days with like 20 plus other people, and you have all these conversations while you're there with people. You hear about their experiences. You're just kind of removed from this culture for a while. So it really like facilitates getting into that zone and really
Mm,
doing deep thinking and stuff, and not just being like sent right back into the workplace or whatever it is. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that can be
for sure.
powerful
And
in
yeah,
itself. Yeah.
yeah, and more importantly, you're getting more connected with yourself, which this chaotic society doesn't really allow you to, you know?
Yeah. What's crazy to me is that like you and I, we're doing like similar things, talking about these psychedelic drugs and the potential they have and all this. Sometimes it feels so crazy that it's people like you and I, like young people who have to come out and talk about this stuff. It's almost like baffling. Like you say, it's like, seems like the world is insane that this stuff is not talked about more. It just seems crazy.
Mm,
Sometimes I wake up and go, really, I'm the guy talking about this. Like that's really like, it always
yeah, I
feels
know,
like there
yeah.
should be more people talking about this. It's crazy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people like higher up that, psychedelics have changed their life and they're famous, well-known people, but they
Right.
just don't talk about it because they're just afraid of what other people are going to say. And
Yeah.
that's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's like this psychedelic closet that people are in. They
Yeah,
don't want to,
totally. I do like
yeah.
I've thought about it and thought, maybe it is up to the young people like us to come out and talk about this because as you get older, I guess you have more to lose. You have
Mm,
children and you have a job that you need to support them, and you have these things that kind of hold you back in ways from being more authentic when there are repercussions. Like there are real repercussions that could happen,
yeah,
by coming
and
out.
I can understand that. Yeah, for sure. Like you
Yeah.
said, a lot of people out there, they may have some business ties or this or that, whereas if they start talking openly about psychedelics, that yeah, it can really
Right.
kind of screw them up.
Yeah.
So
So maybe it is,
mm,
yeah, maybe it's on the young people to come out and share this
yes,
stuff like you're doing.
yeah, it's up to all of us, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean I really like where you're coming from. Like I checked out a bunch of your videos. I'd already seen a
Hello,
few.
you cut out.
Oh shit. Oh, can you still hear me? Oh shit. Damn it. What the hell? So let's see. We were just talking about young people and whatnot. I mean, we can
Yeah,
talk
we're gonna start talking.
a little bit about
Yeah.
like the videos that you make because I wanted to say that I really do appreciate them. Like you seem to have a really good way of expressing these ideas because they can be really complicated and difficult to really put into words sometimes. And you have a really good way of doing that and like also editing it well to make it interesting and fun to watch. Like
Oh, thanks, man.
in particular, like the video you did about mushrooms, really, like for someone who's looking for like an introduction to how to go about preparing to do mushrooms, I thought you did a really good
Oh yeah.
job explaining that. Um,
Oh, thanks, man.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
maybe you could talk a little bit about just your process with making videos, and I don't know if you feel like for whatever reason, you have some sort of gift in just explaining these things to people.
Uh, I don't know. I guess with this gift, I don't even know if you
Yeah,
could
I
call
know.
it
Yeah.
that, but expressing my ideas. I don't know. It's weird because I'm naturally a very introverted person who kind of keeps to himself.
Mm-hmm.
It's only been this since I started this YouTube channel where I've actually been speaking out and I guess, just practice and that kind
Right.
of
Right.
stuff. In terms of the process with videos, well, for the longest time, it was just, I don't know, I feel like talking about this and I'll just shoot. It was as simple as that. But
Mm.
now it's like, as my channel is starting to grow, I just want to make it a little bit more interesting. So I might write a bit of not so much a script, but just sort of like dot points in what I want to talk
Right.
about, make the video more structured. Because I've noticed that in a lot of my past videos, or still do to this day, I repeat myself a lot and
Oh
all this kind
yeah.
of
Yeah.
stuff. So I try to yeah, make it more interesting for the viewers. But yeah, nothing special. I don't know what the what to tell you, man. But
Right. Yeah, you're just speaking
Yeah.
from the heart and speaking from experiences with these things. And like a lot of what
Yeah.
you're doing now, it seems like you're sharing kind of like the lessons that you kind of end up learning through using something like mushrooms or ayahuasca or whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because like these experiences can be very tough to explain for sure. And I think what's helped me explain some of these concepts is that I love to study like psychology and
Hmm.
spirituality and consciousness and that kind of stuff instead of just psychedelics. Because a lot of these
Right.
concepts can be so, yeah, like I said, abstract and difficult to put
Right.
into words.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just try my best. And sometimes I might just listen to other people's trip stories, and they might say something. I'm like, oh, that's a good way of putting it, and I'll just
Right.
use it in my videos. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I just find it fascinating that like these psychedelics, it's just cool the conversations they end up kind of triggering with people. Like you end up taking
Mm.
mushrooms or something, and all of a sudden you're like questioning everything, and you're going into your own psyche, and you're like doing therapy on yourself, and just the conversation that it gets rolling is just alone like really fascinating, really cool that they trigger that in people, that type of psychological thinking and whatnot.
Yeah, it's crazy, and these things grow everywhere around the world. That's like the
Yeah,
most
yeah,
mind-boggling part, and it's just ready to eat. That's why I
right.
find mushrooms. I'm particularly interested in mushrooms because they're just like they just grow ready to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you have ayahuasca and San Pedro and all the like LSD and all these kind of other psychedelics where you need to prepare it in some way. You need to use some form of alchemy, this and
right.
that. Whereas
Yeah,
mushrooms is just boom,
yeah.
that's
It's
it,
so easy.
pop it from the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they grow everywhere they grow like everywhere in my area as well during
Mm.
mushroom season, of
Yeah, you
course.
can just go pick them. Yeah, where I'm from originally, not I live in the north now, so it's too cold for them up here. But where I'm from, down in south,
Uh,
on Vancouver Island in Canada, they're also like they grow every. You just go to like a cow farm and go look in cow poo, and you'll find them
mm,
everywhere. Like as long as you go in the
nice.
right season. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have the cow poo variety.
Yeah,
So we have
yeah.
the wood chip variety, so I don't have
Oh,
to
yeah,
go through cow shit.
yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. So I don't have to like you can eat them fresh. You don't have to wash all the
Yeah,
cow
yeah.
feces off it or anything. I don't know if that's what I don't know.
Yeah, you
Yeah, it's
definitely gotta
interesting.
wash them, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course. They do. They. I'm not saying they don't grow from cow shit here. You do have other species. It's just
Oh, yeah.
it's not Australia. It's my state. Well, not my state,
Right,
but
right. Where you
state that
are.
I
Oh,
live
yeah.
in. Yeah, that's the wood chip variety, which
Yeah, it
is
is pretty
more.
amazing when you
Yeah.
think about it like that, that they just grow naturally so easily
Mm,
from the ground and that they induce these kind of experiences. It's really,
yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, and in civilization as well. Like it was like couple months ago. I went to like the doctor's office, and I literally saw these mushrooms grow right in front of the office. I'm like,
Right.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like, oh, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. So like you're also like we can get into this trip that you are planning. I did see you mention it in a couple of your videos that I think you and your
yes,
partner, your girlfriend are going to go on like a pretty substantial trip to like Peru and Mexico,
no,
maybe
no,
somewhere
no
else.
pun intended. We're going on
Yeah.
a trip, get
Yeah,
it?
yeah, a couple of trips.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be huge. Yeah, for like, so we're going to Chile first. It's not this just like to visit family
Oh yeah.
because we both have Chilean families, and then yeah, we're going to Peru, staying there for a month. So we're going to do an ayahuasca retreat for 2 weeks,
Hmm.
which is pretty exciting, but probably more. I'm more nervous about it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, just travel Peru. Experiment with the San Pedro cactus as well, which is also a very
Hmm.
powerful
Have you
plant
used that
medicine.
before?
I have once before in Peru, and it was that's actually the plant medicine that gave me the idea to start a YouTube channel and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there you
Cool.
go.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
never tried that
um,
personally. San Pedro being
yeah,
the same as like peyote, I think. It's like mescaline.
yeah. It's mescaline, but San Pedro is a more gentle version
Hmm.
of peyote.
Is that
Peyote
right?
is known to be more of like a stern father, whereas San Pedro is like this gentle grandfather figure.
Hmm.
He puts his arm around your shoulder, kind of shows you the beauty of life. So it's yeah,
Okay. And they call it
yeah, it was
huachuma?
absolutely beautiful. Yeah, huachuma. Yeah, that's like the
Right.
indigenous name.
Yeah, at the
Um,
place I went to, the ayahuasca place, they also offered both. They had they did
oh yeah,
like 8 days with ayahuasca, and then after that another whatever 6 days with this huachuma. Yeah. I didn't stick around for
nice.
that though, so I didn't get to try it.
Oh, yeah, it's a very interesting medicine. It's like it complements ayahuasca very well.
Hmm.
It's more of like because ayahuasca is like more of like this feminine kind of
Yeah,
thing,
that's what
and
you hear a lot
some
is, yeah.
yeah, and huachuma is more of like that masculine kind of just gives you
Hmm.
direction, straight answers.
Hmm.
Whereas because ayahuasca it's like very abstract. You get symbolism and this and that.
Right.
You're traveling. Right. Whereas San Pedro is just like, all right, bang, this is how it is,
Hmm.
and you can just have this open kind of dialogue with it. It's really
Cool.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. So then after Peru, we're going to Mexico, and that's what I'm really interested in. I've never been to Mexico before. I just got called there. Even on my last ayahuasca ceremony, I got a vision to
Hmm.
go there as well to try the like mushroom ceremonies, which
Right.
would be really interesting. Yeah, because I've
Yeah.
only had mushrooms like just by myself. I haven't had it in the proper
Hmm. So how did you connect with
ceremony setting.
people in Mexico who are doing ceremonies there?
I met a Mexican lady from the last ayahuasca ceremony that I did.
Hmm.
Yeah, she just started telling me about like the mushrooms in Mexico, and she has contacts and this and that. I'm like, yeah, sick, hook us up.
That would be really cool. I haven't heard much about that, like as far as ceremonial mushroom use.
Yeah,
And that
very
would be
hush
really
hush. It's
interesting
not
to me. Yeah, it's
yeah,
not
it's not
maybe
something
not
that you
as
can go. It's
public.
not something you can Google and like
Yeah.
book a retreat. It's
Okay,
like
yeah.
you gotta know
Yeah,
people.
it sounds
So
like
yeah,
that. Whereas ayahuasca these days is kind of more like you can just Google it and find like 100 retreats with reviews and all this stuff.
it's crazy. You can even order it online. You know what I mean? Like
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
um,
yeah, that sounds really cool though. I'd be really fascinated to hear about what kind of like how they do the ceremony with mushrooms there. Well, I guess you'll be probably
yeah,
making videos after you return and whatnot.
yeah, for sure, definitely. I can see myself like not documenting the experience per se, but more documenting just the trip and like before and after. Because I think it would be kind
Hmm.
of disrespectful me getting the camera
Oh
out while,
yeah,
while I'm
yeah, no
tripping
doubt.
during a ceremony. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't want to be that
definitely.
guy.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm just sitting here puking with my bucket here. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it wouldn't translate anyway, like through
nah,
video.
because people will look at that and be like, "What the fuck is this? These guys doing?" Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't give a good name.
So that's the
Yeah,
plan then? So you're going to be doing three different sort of if you, did you what do you call them? Do you call them
countries.
medicines or
Yeah, medicines. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So it's more like doing healing for myself, but also like a bit more soul searching and
Right.
direction and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, because it's going to be interesting because I'm quitting my job actually.
Oh wow.
Um,
Full on
yeah,
commitment there. Yeah.
yeah, full on. Yeah, exactly. It's it's been. I'm not built for working full time. So it's been just crazy,
Oh
man.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
been working this past almost 2 years. So yeah, I've been planning this trip for ages now, like almost a year and a half. So.
Hmm.
Mm.
Cool. So with something like that, like what are you like when you go plan something like this, do you feel like there's specific things in your life that you are like you really want help with, or do you feel like you don't even need that you just feel like if you go down there you will without a doubt you will work on things because that's what these things do, like you don't even have to have intention necessarily, that you'll just come out.
Yeah, yeah, it is more that like I definitely do have an intention. It's not like, for example, last time I went to Peru, that was I had a very strong intention. I wanted to like deal with my shit pretty much, and I still do
Mm-hmm.
now. But it's not necessarily me going traveling just to try these plant medicine. It's more to go traveling because I love going for adventures
Oh
and
yeah,
traveling,
yeah.
meeting new people, having new experiences. These plant medicines are just like the cherry on top,
Right, yeah, yeah.
which is just going to catapult me to that next level. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think I'm just going to naturally. I don't know. Like that's why I don't like to plan these things too much. I think that things are just going to come up what I need to deal with at the time. So
Yeah, yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. But it's weird because like as soon as I booked the flight and everything was official, that's like already starts coming up. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
the medicine already starts working before you actually go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
That's hilarious. That's something I think when I originally was signing up to go to this retreat myself to do ayahuasca, he like mentioned that I think like in like an email or something. Like you should probably just expect you're gonna meet resistance along the way. Like as you once you
Mm,
decide to do this,
yep.
there's gonna be things are gonna come up and give you a lot of excuses not to do this. Like you're gonna have to push forward through some stuff probably.
Oh yeah. A lot of resistance, and your mind's gonna go to crazy places like, oh, what happened if I go crazy because of this, or
Hmm.
who knows? Yeah.
So like one of the things I really, one person told me that when talking about these psychedelics and what they do and what kind of their role, he explained it like they show you the work that you can do, or that maybe you should do. And I really like that. And I thought that's true in a lot of cases. And I just wanted to ask you, like, as far as your vision for the work that you want to do, like you say, you're ready to get out of this job you're in, and you started working on this YouTube channel and putting out these ideas and these things. Do you have like a greater vision or like a long-term goal as far as the work that you want to do? And maybe even I could just ask specifically, like, do you see yourself one day working with these things, maybe with other people in some capacity?
Yeah, I have seen myself doing that kind of, like, I have a vague idea on the long term of where I want to go. Like, you know, maybe, who knows, maybe I could do some sort of like tour guides to Peru, or, you know, coach, or it's just that it's very vague what I want to do. This is one of the reasons why I want to go back, just to get more clarity on what I want to do. Obviously work on this YouTube channel, and like really take it to that next step, which will be easier when I have all the time in the world, instead of like just working 40 plus hours a week. You know, it's been been hard work, but yeah, not too much, man. But I just want to, I guess, you know, reduce as much stigma as I can around these plant medicines, and just help as many people as I can, because I know so many people who could really use these medicines, you know, and it's usually the people who need it the most are the most against it, because they have to face that much more resistance.
Totally,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, no, I've thought that as well. That like I definitely see myself working with these things in some way, and I don't know if that's just going to be talking to people about them forever. Like when I was younger, I never envisioned myself as any kind of like radio host or person, you know, interviewing people. It's not really what I thought I'd be doing, but it just kind of seems like the work to be done currently when it comes to these psychedelics is just educating people about it, having these conversations. But who knows, once they're legal and you know, being able to be used in certain capacities, maybe I won't even need to do this podcast anymore. Maybe I'll move on to some other type of work, but I don't necessarily know what that is either. It's going to be curious just to see how they come into our cultures, and like how they are going to be used initially, like whether it'll be shamanic ceremony or like more like MAPS, sort of like therapy, psycho-assisted therapy kind of stuff, or
exactly, because it's hard to know, you know what I mean? Like I can, you know, I can see myself doing podcasting in the future. That's something that I can definitely see myself doing.
You've done a couple, right? I think I saw a couple.
Yeah, I've done a couple, just amateur, casual ones, but not like, you know, an official podcast where I do it every week or whatever.
Right.
It's not. Don't have the energy to do that right now, because I got a lot going on. It'll happen.
I wonder, like, as far as like how these things are going to be introduced and stuff, it's something I think about all the time. And I wonder, do you have an opinion on like what you think these things are? And maybe like as far as, because there's so many opinions out there, you know, I've talked to a lot of people who have very spiritual based beliefs, and like literally talk about like interacting with spirits and going to spiritual realms and other dimensions and all this stuff. Do you have a take on that side of things? Like what you believe these things to be?
I don't know. I know it's hard. I know what you mean. Like once you go into this realm, it's hard to just think of it as just purely chemicals working in your brain. And and on a scientific perspective, that's definitely true. But I think there's something deeper going on. Listen, I don't know whether it is spirits or projections of your own unconscious. At the end of the day, it's the same experience. You know what I mean? Doesn't really matter if they're real or not, and then you know what's real anyway.
So. You go down that rabbit hole too.
Exactly. So it's, I don't know, man. Short answer.
Yeah, you just
I have no idea what's going on, but but all I know that it works. It gives you results, and it's profound technology given us by nature. So
no, I've seen you mention that as well and emphasize that. I think I agree. That's what I tend to emphasize, is like it just helps people. Like. Exactly. I know it can do that. Yeah. But as far as what it is, that's kind of just up for debate at the moment. Like, who knows?
Yeah, who knows, man? Like, and there are so many different psychedelics out there as well. You know, mushrooms. I think Terence McKenna was dig the idea of that they're aliens from outer space. You know?
Right.
I can resonate with that. You know, it makes sense, sort of, I suppose.
Like there's some sort of consciousness.
Exactly. Some sort of separate consciousness.
Right.
I don't know, man. Mushrooms is very, very strange. I find them weird, more weird than like ayahuasca and all them kind of
Yeah, it seems
plant.
like that. You know what? I hear that a lot, to be honest. Like even like you mentioned Kalindi earlier, and he really emphasizes that too. That like mushrooms are they're like the one, they're like the big one, and then a lot of these other things are like medicines that are to heal different things. Where mushrooms are like they're a whole other thing. They can heal too, but they're also like kind of crazy. Like they can go to
Yeah,
another level.
exactly. They're not purely just medicine. And it's funny you say that because I was talking to this dude who's had like fucking decades of experience with ceremonies and got taught by all these different elders, and he
Hmm.
told me that mushrooms isn't not a medicine; it's a potion. And I
Potion.
don't know why, but that it just really resonated with me because that's not. I mean, yes, like you said, mushrooms can be very healing for sure, but that's
Mm.
not. I don't think that's their number one
Yeah.
intention compared to ayahuasca and San
Right.
Pedro and these plant medicines.
Hmm. Did he like
Um,
do ceremonies with mushrooms, or he works with other stuff?
yeah, he has. He personally said that he doesn't resonate with mushrooms because
Hmm.
they said that he said that they're cosmic and he wants to stay here on
Huh.
Earth.
Oh,
I
that's
was like, I can
funny.
dig it. Yeah, but he didn't say that they're bad or you shouldn't touch them. He just said that he personally didn't resonate with them,
Right.
whereas I really resonate with them. I like going out of space.
Yeah. No, that's I think Kalindi said very similar thing to me, if I can recall. He said something along the lines of
Mm.
like all these other things they're earth based, like they're plants that have grown from
Oh,
the whereas like
there you
these
go.
mushrooms are fungi. They come from like a whole other thing. They're from like an asteroid from like a galaxy far, far away or something like that. You
Mm.
know.
Yeah, well, you even look at the chemical of psilocybin. There's not one chemical that's even remotely close to it. And it's
Right.
like fungi, like it's closer to animals than they are to a plant, and it's like
Right.
super strange, man. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think I heard that too. Like they're even like they're like, oh god, I can't remember the quote, but it was something like they're pretty related to humans. Like they're not that far away from like from us.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So yeah, with like these videos, what would you say your goal is? Is your goal just to sort of educate enough people, like more and more people, so more and more people find out about this information and can work on themselves as you have as well, like just share that experience?
Yes, I think in a nutshell, it's more. I'm trying to help people with their psychedelic journey, I suppose.
Hmm.
Because it's not as simple as just taking a few magic mushrooms and then fixing all your problems. It's like it's an art form.
Hmm.
Um,
That's interesting. Yeah.
and yeah, and it takes a lot of work to be able to navigate those waters. So yeah, I guess just to help people along with their psychedelic journey, but
Hmm.
also provide education and harm reduction.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like harm reduction is kind of a focus. Like if you
yeah,
like you know
yeah,
people are
pretty
gonna be
much. Yeah,
trying these things, so at least help them do it in a safe way and like a way that's gonna benefit them in some way.
yeah, exactly. Because not everyone is going to fly to Peru to do it with a shaman. You know what I mean? There's a
Right.
lot of people who are going to do it by themselves. So to those people, I want to help them have the most uh, optimal experience that they can.
Right.
Yeah,
And what about like it's funny too, like going back to what we were like saying before is we're young people. We're and I don't know about you, like I feel like I don't
yeah.
know that much. Like I'm not I talk to people about this all the time. And so but I don't consider myself like an expert in this stuff. But like with mushrooms, I came to all this stuff by like trying mushrooms as a young person and then basically coming to the conclusion that like, oh, these are like actually useful. Our world's crazy. People are just ignorant or
Mm.
whatever. It's crazy that these are illegal. And I wonder like what's your opinion on these substances being illegal still to this day? Do you think it comes down to people with power just being ignorant to the effects of these things, or do you think it's more like an intentional kind of conspiracy against them because they are so powerful?
Mm. I think the latter would make more sense because, like, with these, it's not even that psychedelics are illegal. That's crazy. It's that they're Schedule One,
Yeah,
right? And they make
yeah,
it
yeah.
very, and they intentionally make it very hard for scientists to do research on them.
Right.
That's the crazy part. Like
Yeah.
what? Well, there was like a 30-year hiatus on psychedelic research until Dr. Rick Strassman. That's fucking insane.
Yeah,
So then we
totally.
know. So we're banning these substances, but we're not allowed to learn about them. So
Right. Yeah,
and
that's
like,
a
how
little
do they get illegal?
suspicious, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit suspicious as well because, like, what LSD got illegal after this huge kind of hippie movement,
Yeah, right.
anti-war movement. But yeah, I think they know what's up. They're not, the government isn't stupid. I think that because these psychedelic substances tend to promote critical thinking. Usually when people have a psychedelic experience, they start questioning more things. They start questioning reality and society and how things are done. So that could be a part of it as well.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
funny thought to have that people actually know the power of these things and are like, oh, we got to
Mhm.
fucking make these things illegal because people are gonna
Yeah.
rise up. Like we're gonna lose our
Exactly.
power if everyone
Yeah.
knows what's up.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's makes the most sense, at least in
Yeah,
my opinion. Mm.
yeah. It's hard. I go back and forth because maybe like people too are just like, like if someone's raised in maybe like my parents' generation, they're so you know brainwashed is like a pretty harsh term, but like they're just so in that idea, that perspective of like these things are so dangerous and bad. And I don't put it past people like that have a lot of power in government or whatever too, to just believe that, to truly just be like, no, these things are just really bad and
Yeah. It's
dangerous.
just
And
bad. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean because like psychedelics can be dangerous for sure if you don't take it in the right set and setting and you have a fragile mindset and whatever, all these other different factors.
mm-hmm.
But to make them illegal because they can be dangerous makes no logical sense because then why aren't knives illegal?
Yeah, no, exactly
People
right.
can people can kill people. Why not make cars illegal? People die on the
Yeah,
roads
yeah,
all the time. Why not make alcohol illegal? Why not make tobacco illegal? So on that, yeah. So like it just makes no logical sense that they will make mushrooms illegal because they can be dangerous.
right.
So
Yeah,
Schedule 1 as well. So
yeah, and you're right about like them being Schedule 1. Like if it was just an ignorance thing, you'd think with all the sort of information out there, they would at least be like Schedule, 2 or something. They wouldn't be like the most
exactly.
illegal drug possible.
Yeah,
Like,
but yeah, exactly. It's crazy how illegal they are. Yeah.
yeah, with like really harsh punishments, and it's saying there's zero medicinal benefits, and even marijuana is on that list. Marijuana, to have no medicinal benefits, and it's still federally illegal in the U.S.
I know it's insane, but it's good that the US has started to, like Colorado, states like that have started to
Yeah,
legalize it, and they've opened up the floodgates.
yeah,
Like Colorado legalizing marijuana has opened up the floodgates for all drugs to be decriminalized, whether we know it or not. It's just
hmm,
a matter of when.
yeah. It is changing. Yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later. Yeah.
It sounds like, I think like the US is, their big election is like happening maybe next week or something. And I think also like on that whatever ballot or whatever with the presidential election, there's also, I think a lot of
Mm.
states are also looking to legalize marijuana in some capacity, whether medicinal or not. So we might see a whole bunch of states very soon also follow suit and whatnot.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see what happens.
And I think in
I know
Canada
Australia's
too.
still pretty behind. Yeah, Canada too.
I think
Nice.
so. Our new prime minister reelected has basically promised to make marijuana recreationally legal, so not just medicinally.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice.
but so
Yeah.
what's the deal in Australia?
I think next year, from what I read, in my state in Victoria, they're going to make it medically legal,
Oh yeah,
primarily to treat kids who have seizures. So it's a
right.
start.
Yeah,
It's good.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
that's an
start.
area that's hard to deny. Like when you see the videos and whatnot of the kids who have these crazy seizures, and then like the non psychoactive, it's like CBD
The
oil
CBD, yeah,
is
yeah,
able to cure their
yeah.
seizures. It's like, oh my god, it's ridiculous.
So yeah, and it's heartbreaking to see the parents who have to go through that, and then the government stopping them from getting the medicine that they need, but
Hmm.
they'll give them a whole cocktail of these pharmaceutical drugs.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I've heard you mention
um,
that too, like the pharmaceutical industry. Like you believe that maybe they're also like a part of these staying illegal too because of the sort of non they're not going to make as much money on some of these other things that you don't need to be taking say every day. And so they maybe have
yeah,
something against legalizing some of these
yeah,
drugs.
exactly. Well, you take antidepressants, for example. That's not something that you just need to take once or twice. That's something that you need to take every day. And sometimes doctors will say that you need to take this for the rest of your life,
Right.
which is fucking crazy,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Whereas you take ayahuasca or mushrooms, I'm not saying only once, but not every day, that's for sure. It could be
Yeah.
once, twice, every couple months, or whatever it is, depending on the person, of course. And it can completely cure or at least effectively treat their depression.
Mhm.
And yeah, same with marijuana. Like you have marijuana that can treat this huge array of illnesses that they have already all these medications for that they need to take every day again. And you
Well,
can't, and marijuana is
oh,
something that's very hard to patent as well.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something. Yeah, I've heard you talk about that. I think in one of your videos, you're just talking about how people like think it's crazy to even think that the pharmaceutical industry would like intentionally push down like some of these other illegal drugs. Whereas like, no, they're going to lose a ton of money. They have a lot to lose if all of a sudden
Uh,
plants that people can grow at home are going to replace all their
Exactly.
cupboard full of drugs. That's actually a big hit to people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and big pharma is a business first and foremost, after all.
Yeah, right.
And I don't, it's not far fetched to say that it's a fact. They're a business,
Hmm.
so they want to make as much profit as they can.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I as far as what, what do you envision, say, if these things became legal, like we're sort of
Mm.
promoting, we're kind of saying like these things should be available in some capacity, and who knows what that capacity is. I don't know, I just kind of say the laws have to change. I don't know if they should be all just fully legal for everyone. There's age limits like
Mm.
alcohol. There's a lot you could debate on how to make them legal. But let's just say they're like available in some capacity for people to use. How do you see these changing our cultures and our communities on like a large scale, like over time? Like if these were legal to use tomorrow, how do you think things would change like 10 years from now?
Oof. I think a lot will change because people will start getting more. They'll start waking up. For one, they'll start having empathy for others. That's a huge thing that I've noticed with people who take psychedelics. They start giving a shit more,
Mm.
really. Um, so how would society be in 10 years if psychedelics were legal? Well, I'd like to hope that we'd stop using, things like fossil fuels and stop fucking up the planet as much as we are.
Yeah.
Start caring for others. And I don't even know, man. Who knows?
But that's
A
something
lot
I,
can
I
change in
like.
10
I
years,
like that
though.
you said that
Yeah.
because I agree. Like, I think that's kind of, there's a lot of causes that you could fight for, right? And I've picked this sort of psychedelic drug cause to fight for. And I,
Mm.
I do believe that it's the most important one because I think it can carry over, like you mentioned, to like an environmental movement or something. I think people will start caring more about the environment, about their people in their community, if they're open to more of these kind of experiences. They kind of facilitate that type of thinking, that
Yeah. Well, it's
empathy
because
thing.
it heals yourself. Because the reason why people don't give a shit about the environment is
Right,
because a lot of people don't give a shit about themselves.
right,
Like if you're miserable, if you're depressed, and you're in this shitty job and have this shitty kind of mundane life, then why
right.
should you care about the rest of the world? You know what I mean? That's the
Yeah,
kind of mentality that people get stuck in. Whereas psychedelics can obviously, if done right, they can help that part of you. They can heal that part of you, and which in turn will make you more, I guess, loving to others. As hippie as that sounds, but
mm,
it's true.
right. No, I think that's true. That idea that you got to heal yourself first, or get to a point where then you can spread that
Mm,
out, because you can't spread what you don't have, kind of thing. Like,
exactly.
and yeah, even like I can give an example of yesterday. I was gonna prepare to talk with you, and I was gonna like go watch some of your videos and kind of look you up a bit.
Yeah.
And I started doing it, and I had started eating this new breakfast with like it had like a ton of nuts and seeds and all this stuff, and I think I put way too much in because I started getting this super painful stomach ache, and it was just like debilitating. Like it was
All
so
right.
painful. So all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna go watch these videos. I gotta go lay down on the couch and like I just have to wait
Mm,
and let myself get out of this. Because when you're in like
exactly. Yeah.
pain like that, whether it's like physical or other types of pain, emotional, even spiritual, like being lost or feeling, you're not really thinking
Mm,
about other people. You like pain is, it puts you in the moment. Like you have to address
yeah,
that pain.
definitely.
It takes over your thoughts because it's so immediate. And so I think if people feel pain in some way, they're not going to be looking at the bigger picture. They're not going to be trying to do these bigger
Yeah.
things. And so it does come down to that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like you said, you got to start with yourself. You got to heal yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing about that. What we need to do with our planet is to heal ourselves. And yeah, of course, psychedelics is not the only way to heal yourself, but I
Hmm.
find that they're the most effective if you're like really in the shithole. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you have treatment-resistant depression, because a lot of people who go to Peru and drink ayahuasca and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of like the last thing that, you know, they've
Right.
tried
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
else, and that's like the
Totally.
last resort that they go to, and
Yeah.
then it usually works.
Yeah, I
So
interviewed a guy who was a soldier, a US Army soldier in Iraq, and he came back with post traumatic stress disorder. And that's
yeah,
basically what he said is he tried everything. He tried all like
yeah,
therapy and all sorts of stuff. And eventually he's just like, I got to do ayahuasca because this seems to be the last thing that's on the list. So let's do it.
yep,
And it was like huge for him, like just changed everything.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it happens every single day, you know.
Yes.
He heals people with like hardcore, debilitating mental illnesses.
Yeah.
So
And so like I do feel like, I don't know either. Like when I try to think, I do think about it a lot, like how our culture could change if these things were able to be more readily available. But it's hard to really see how it would all look. But I do see like there is a lot of suffering going on that seems unnecessary. Like it seems like we
mm,
could people in general could live more like fulfilling, meaningful, inspired lives, I think, like in general. And we could change like I think kind of like why we work and how we work. Like I think we kind of operate on this level of like it seems like we think people need money to be motivated to work. But I don't believe
yeah,
in that. I don't believe that's true. I think people choose to work because it motivates and inspires and fulfills them in ways. So I think if
exactly.
it'll probably make a
Yeah,
shift of like instead of everyone just being a slave to a paycheck, we'll I think be able to work on greater things that are more I don't know, I envision like more like space travel and things that are actually like so interesting. Like let's go to like another galaxy. Let's focus on that. Like let's do something cool.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But, well, like you said as well, like once you're in alignment with your higher self, your money is going to become a byproduct. You know what I mean? Like that shouldn't be your number one focus,
Right.
which is why people get fucking miserable.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
constantly chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or whatever.
exactly, exactly. Catching, yeah, chasing the dragon.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard too many successful people, like millionaires, all repeat the same thing that like if you just chase the money, you're not going to be happy. Like you got to chase what inspires you and what you really love to do and the money will follow. Like I've heard that from a lot of famous people, a lot of
yeah, yeah. Well,
rich people.
yeah. Like I follow the work of Tony Robbins, and he talks
Oh
about
yeah.
that all the time. Yeah, and he coaches. Fuck, man, he's coached presidents to fucking Mother Teresa to like
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, who
multi-billionaires,
he's
and like
worked with.
he's really in that scene. So he knows what he's talking about, and he talks about how so many of the richest people in the world are like the most miserable people he's ever met in his life.
Right.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
he talked about like this super hip hop, like this hip hop superstar, which he didn't reveal the name,
Mm.
obviously. And he goes, yeah, he's like the most miserable person I've ever met in my life. Like,
Huh.
absolutely hardcore depressed, but no
Right.
one knows, right? Because you see the music video, you see the bitches, the money, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
right.
people are like, yeah, he has a pretty cool life, but then behind the scenes, he's probably like, you know, crying himself to sleep. You don't know.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I checked out that Tony Robbins documentary that it hit on Netflix a while ago. And I just talked
I'm not
about
your
it a bit.
guru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked about it on a previous podcast because I did find like I didn't really know much about Tony Robbins to be honest before that. Like I just knew he was
Oh
like
yeah.
this motivational speaker, but I kind of was like, he's just kind of this celebrity dude, like whatever. But actually watching that documentary about him, it was pretty cool just the level he was connecting with people, and he has a lot of pretty
Mm.
legit ideas about how people can sort of go down a different path. Like how do you shake someone up enough to get them to do some different stuff with their lives?
Yeah.
He's
Break
pretty
their pattern. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems pretty legit. He's got some good stuff for sure.
Yeah. Well, like he likes to call himself a practical psychologist. You know, he
Right.
teaches psychiatrists and psychologists, yet he's never done a course like that in his life.
Right,
But he's
right,
lived it. He's lived it, which is more important. You know.
right. So that's
Yeah.
someone
Which I
like
find really inspirational.
you followed him for a while kind of thing?
Yeah, for a while, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Tony's really helped me. Tony, like I'm like he's my friend or something. Oh yeah, you know Tony.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but Tony Robbins, he's really helped my view on life for
Hmm.
sure, and really helped immensely with my self development.
That's
Yeah, by
cool.
following a lot of his principles. Yeah.
Yeah, after you saying that, I can almost like see that in your videos, even maybe a little bit. I could see like
Mm.
some of his ideas, or just that motivational quality to some of your stuff.
Yeah, he's just super inspirational, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
found like a lot of his ideas in that documentary. I definitely related to like psychedelic type of thinking and stuff. Like it down similar, like he talks about using like swear words and stuff intentionally just to snap
Yeah.
people out of stuff because it just sets
They
like,
pay attention. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like, whoa, whoa. Did you just say that? Like, what the fuck?
yeah, like I can't believe I
Makes you
thought you
pay
were just a
attention.
nice guy. Yeah, it
Yeah,
snaps you out of
exactly.
your head.
Exactly.
You go into the present moment. I think psychedelics do that too. They kind of snap you out of
Yeah.
things.
Oh yeah, for sure. Tony Robbins is like a psychedelic human.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
it's great because my mate went to his seminar like the other month. It completely changed his life. It
Is
was
that
like,
right?
yeah, really cool to see. Yeah.
Hmm.
And man, I bet you Tony Robbins has tried psychedelics before. He just can't say it.
Oh,
He would
maybe.
have to, surely, right? Like you would have to know about him
Yeah,
from
yeah.
traveling the world and meeting all these different people. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah, and I mean, having these type of conversations like he does, you'd think enough people would mention these things to him probably that he would go out of his
Exactly.
way
Exactly.
to try it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I saw a podcast with him and Tim Ferriss,
I listened to
and
that. I'd listen to that as well.
yeah, and he mentioned how psychedelics has helped him, and then Tony Robbins is like, yeah, psychedelics can help you with that, and like but also hypnotherapy can help you with that as well.
Okay,
That's what he
yeah.
said. But he said it in a way like, oh yeah, like he obviously knew about that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right,
I've
right.
never heard him talk about it.
That's funny. God, that's like
There you go.
that would almost make me angry if he actually like had heavy use in like ayahuasca, but he never mentioned it or something. I mean,
Yeah, I
who
know.
knows? I bet you, like probably most of what he does has been just learned through experience and stuff because he talks about going through a lot of stuff when he was young and whatnot. But I
Yeah.
mean, I do get frustrated when people just don't talk, like don't address the fact that they have used psychedelics and they were like super powerful moments in their lives and they just kind of like brush over it like, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and it's that is what's really going to help change the view on psychedelics is people coming out and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And same with me, it pisses me off as well because I know so many people who've had a life changing experience with psychedelics, but then they're completely quiet about it and never speak about it to other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
They put like this mask, like they're ashamed, and they talk about all and these are people who like talk about like you shouldn't care what other people think, and they have all these motivational speeches, but then they don't talk about this really integral part of their life. So it just
Yeah.
makes no sense to me.
Yeah. No, I've had
Yeah.
conversations with friends who, not just even psychedelics, but talking about other things. But they're even psychedelics are a good example though. So they've talked about like, oh yeah, like I used LSD and I used mushrooms and I had great experiences and like, oh, it was really fun. Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, they should probably still be illegal though because they're dangerous. And I'm like, man, like you just said, you had a great experience. You're totally
Mm.
fine. But they're just so like caught up in this idea that drugs are bad, and they kind of, I think people accept this view of like, oh, I'm a bad person. So even if I do something, that's just me being bad. Like that's what I do. I'm a bad person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
Yeah. Drugs are bad. Yeah. That's really been instilled in
yeah,
us, huh?
people just
Ah.
have that in the back of their mind, you know? They really get,
And what's a drug, man? Like anything that has a biochemical reaction in your brain is a drug.
that's right.
So that's
Yeah.
supplements, alcohol, nicotine, caffeine. They're all drugs.
Yeah.
The distinction between drugs is a legal one, not a biochemical one. You
Yeah,
know,
totally. Yeah, that's right.
that's
Yeah.
what they separate. It's because it's illegal, so then it's a drug. But if it's legal, oh, that's okay. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it is changing. People are kind of catching on and I think that yeah, that's a really good way to like break it down is to just like like label everything a drug because it really that's what it is. Like our
everything's a
experience
drug.
is like a chemical experience in our mind. We're always sort of like in some chemically induced state, whether you're like go for a run and you get like that rush of whatever it is, dopamine or whatever comes up.
So, yeah,
And that's
exactly.
all
That's a
drug
drug.
related. Yeah.
We're made of drugs.
Yeah, yeah. That's how we
Like quite
yeah.
literally. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have much else. Like, do you have anything that you'd want to say to people to either like people who follow you or watching or people who haven't checked out your stuff?
Well, I guess for people who are considering having a psychedelic trip who haven't yet, I would say, well, of course, do your research. And most importantly, I would build the foundation of your mind. Like, read about psychology, start maybe a meditation practice, start self inquiry
Right.
and things like that. Because I can see why psychedelics can be dangerous if you're not ready for it. That doesn't mean that they should be illegal, of course, but I can definitely see why they can be dangerous, because I've had some pretty scary trips myself, and it
Right.
made me
Yeah.
kind of like, ooh, whew, okay, I gotta be careful of this, because there are a lot of psychonauts out there who think that, psychedelics aren't a big deal, and they may have tripped like 100 times, but they've never had that really horrifying traumatic experience which kind of
Mm.
shook them up. And once you have that experience, then you start, well, okay, these things are not to be fucked with. They should be really respected and only used with a strong intention. I
Right.
think that's really, really important. And yeah, make sure you're ready for it, of
Yeah.
course.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's something, to be honest, that I forget to mention a lot. Like I have so many of these conversations now, I kind of gloss over the fact that these things can be dangerous too. And
Mm.
it is true. It is definitely true that they can be. And yeah, like I interviewed someone on this podcast who took LSD when she was quite like in her late teens or early 20s, and had like went into psychosis, was like hospitalized with like
Wow.
basically a schizophrenic type of thing, where she was like hospitalized and like had to have help feeding herself, clothing herself. Was like, it really messed her up. And I mean, who knows? It's hard to say exactly why that happened. Like, it's not very clear. Like she did it with 5 other people or so who were all fine, but for her it reacted poorly and it didn't go well. And you can,
Wow.
and who knows why that happened. Like, there's a lot of things you could speculate. You could say maybe the one she took wasn't just LSD, could have been something else. Another reason drugs, I think, should be legal is because then we'll actually regulate them and know what's in them
Mm.
and stuff. But also, she did it
Exactly.
with a bunch of friends who were also high, and maybe if she had someone there to like talk her through scary moments or whatever or something, maybe she would have been able to handle it better. Like, who knows? It's hard to say, but the fact is, like, for sure certain people can have very difficult experiences with the stuff. So it's good to point that out, that it's like, go in knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah, exactly. It's just do your research. Is she okay now, or is
Yeah.
she still struggling with
Yeah. No,
psychosis?
she's
No?
completely fine. Like, she
Oh, okay. So it
recovered.
was just like an episode. It was like a psychotic
Yeah. I
episode
mean,
that she
it
had.
did last for
Okay.
like 2 months or something. So it wasn't like just a day.
Oh,
Yeah. It was like 2 months.
damn.
Yeah, but she
No
is
shit.
fine now. I don't think she's experimented with psychedelics since. I think she's kind of like
Yeah.
stayed away a bit,
Like, okay. Yeah. Stay away. But
but still
yeah,
like drinks
that's why.
alcohol,
Yeah.
smokes pot, I think, a little bit or whatever.
Mm. It's hard to tell why that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
But that's why now. See, now I'm a lot more hesitant with trying psychedelics by myself.
Oh,
I'm not saying that I never do, but I was more willy nilly with them in the past. Whereas now I'm like, I'm going to reserve that for, like,
right.
have a guide or something like that. That's just me personally, because I've had pretty fucking scary experiences.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, it's more like mushrooms, for example. I wouldn't have again until I go to Mexico, just because
Hmm.
my last one was like fucking terrifying. It was
So like,
beneficial in the long run for sure, but
maybe you
yeah,
could like talk about like why, like, what, when you say it was like terrifying or a bad, like a scary experience, like what does that mean? Like, what was scary?
it was all right. Well, at first, I got completely blinded by visuals, so it didn't matter whether or not I was opening or closing my eyes,
Oh yeah.
and it felt like I was like physically dying, like, and I was having like this panic attack,
Oh
and
shit.
I
Yeah.
went to like this crazy psychotic thought loop, and I envisioned myself like in this mental hospital, and then like my family there crying about like fucking
Hmm.
hardcore shit. I was just in this loop. I couldn't even like string a sentence together,
Right.
and fuck. I remember, oh, dude, one of the scariest part was like my teeth were falling out, and I could physically feel that. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, man, not cool at all. It was like, I can't say the 100% of the trip was bad,
Hmm.
because there were little pockets where I felt cleansing. Like there was I felt the entities of like these shamanic, like these ayahuasca shamans
Hmm.
thingies there, like with those little feather things,
Oh
and
yeah.
they were kind of cleansing me out. And there were some moments where I was like, whew, like it felt so good, like this huge weight just got lifted off me, and then back I went to that
Hmm.
vicious cycle. Yeah, but yeah, just the feeling of thinking I was dying. Like my girlfriend came to my rescue.
Hmm.
Like I can laugh about it now; it's fine. Like I'm not fucking traumatized by it. This is
Yeah.
during the experience, it was fucking
So
scary.
how did she come to your
Um,
rescue? Like, just to talk you down a bit?
Yeah, well, she just finished work, as I called her, luckily, and yeah, she just came home and just comforted me and was just there, and really,
Right.
really helped.
Yeah, I think that can
But yeah,
help
man, I just
ground a
remember I was,
person.
yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely, because when she wasn't there, I had nothing to ground me. So I
Right.
was just having
Yeah,
this
yeah.
kind of ego death experience, but I didn't have a full ego death experience because my ego was just clinging onto this reality with all its
Mm,
might, and I couldn't like quite, let go.
right.
Um, but yeah, scary shit. But I took way too much, man. I took 7.5 grams.
Right, that was the like a very high dose that you took.
Yeah, really high dose. And I was telling you earlier, the mushrooms that we get here is like one of the most potent mushrooms in the world. So
Right.
that 7.5 gram dose would be equivalent to like, 10 plus grams of
Right.
cubensis or whatever. So it was a huge, huge dose. And yeah, I just underestimated it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I found it beneficial in the end anyway because I understood the trip, but sometimes people don't. So
Yeah, I think dose is
um,
important. Definitely, like if I was gonna give any one piece of advice to someone like trying it for the first time or dabbling a little bit, is like start with
mhm,
small doses, because I think with mushrooms specifically, like dose does matter. It makes a big difference for sure.
it does, yeah. And the mushrooms are tricky as well because you might have a 3 gram dose which could be really weak, and another 3 gram
Right.
dose which could be
Yeah.
like extremely strong because like the potency varies quite a bit. Because the week before I had that 7.5 gram dose, I had about 6 grams,
Oh,
and I got nothing, nothing.
wow.
So it was just coincidentally just a really, 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 really weak batch of mushrooms.
Hmm.
So then the next week, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to up the dose.
Oh, there you go.
And I
Yeah.
must have,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that too. And like DMT, I've had some pretty scary experiences as well. Like
Oh, okay. I want to ask you about
that
that
one.
too. But I was gonna say, like, just
Yeah.
in general, like that's a good like piece of like harm reduction advice for like any drug, especially if like you don't know the exact source or something where it comes from. If you get
Mm,
any new drug, try it first. Like test it, do a small test dose just to see the potency level of what you're
well,
dealing
yeah,
with.
exactly. Check the threshold dose. Yeah.
Like these days here in Canada, there's kind of like a crazy, like I don't know what you call it, like outbreak of this drug called fentanyl. That there, have you heard of that?
No, no, no. What's that?
It's a really strong opiate drug that there a lot of like dealers are cutting into like heroin or even cocaine and things. I think because they're getting it cheap and they can lace other stuff with it.
Mm,
But it's so
right.
powerful that a lot of people are overdosing on this stuff. They're overdosing because they don't know fentanyl
Shit.
is in their shit, and then they're taking their normal dose of like heroin or something, but it's killing them because it's so
Mm,
powerful. So just like a really good example of like if you get new shit, test it first. Like try it out.
yeah, exactly. Well, and like you said before as well, that's why it's very important for drugs to be legalized because
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you'll be more regulated. You know what you're taking, and like the fact that like synthetic marijuana is legal just tells you something that
Yeah.
the law isn't based on logic and science. So
Yeah, totally.
that's I don't know if you've had that before, but it's pretty full on.
Which sorry?
Have you
Oh,
had
synthetic?
spice? Like,
No.
yeah, synthetic weed. Yeah, no, I don't recommend it. Don't do it, but
Is it
it's
actually
really
like
fun.
does it have like the same effect as normal marijuana?
Nah, it's different. It's a different beast
Totally
completely.
different thing.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
totally different thing. It's a lot more potent. It hits you like straight away. Doesn't last long. Maybe from what I remember, it lasted like half an hour. But the come
Hmm.
down is just like
Oh,
pretty full on.
just well, and that's something they like sell in stores like legally or something?
Yeah, well, because what they do is they sell it at any tobacco station, really. And what happens is that it will get banned. So then they'll change one little molecule, or they won't
Oh.
even change the molecule. They'll change the name of the molecule, and they just go on this fucking this
Oh,
loophole, and will
right.
just constantly just gets
Right. I
released
think that
again
was
with
like
a
how
different
like
name.
bath salts were like getting popular at one point.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
similar
There you
kind of
go.
thing. Just technical
It-
lingo that they could just make it legal.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So this is exactly why we need to
Right.
legalize,
Yeah,
well, at
yeah.
least marijuana. I mean, come on, that's just like crazy, man. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I know it blows my mind that it's like, oh my god, and it's so popular. Like I don't know about Australia. I assume Australia is pretty similar to Canada in this sense of like
We
when it
fucking
comes to
love our weed.
marijuana. Yeah, like where I live too, like Western Canada, probably all of Canada at this point. But like, man, it's just
Yeah.
everywhere. Like ever since I was young, I just see everyone smoking it, and yet it's been
Yeah,
illegal the whole
yeah.
time. Like it's just ridiculous. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's weird because here, like, yes, it's technically illegal, but cops don't give a flying fuck
Yeah,
about
right,
weed,
right.
unless sometimes you might get like the old school kind of cop who's just a dick, you know what I mean? Who
Yeah,
like
yeah.
book you for a gram or whatever. Um, but nah, man, here it's. I remember I got busted like I think 2 years ago now. I had an ounce of weed,
Oh yeah,
which is quite a lot to
yeah.
get busted for.
That's a lot.
And the worst part was that like we were just rolling up a joint, and just before we got to smoke it, we got caught. So we weren't even high. So yeah, but there were like these 5 cops. You know, they booked us. I got a caution, but that's it. And I
Hmm.
remember talking to the cops, and there were a few of them saying like, "Man, I wish weed was illegal. I wish weed was
Oh
legal
man,
so I can
yeah.
smoke it and shit." You
Yeah,
know,
it's the same here. Yeah, the police, they're not going to bust you unless they have to for some, like it's some kind, they're forced into making
yeah,
a charge, or like they take
yeah,
it more serious if you have you have a lot of it, and it's if they can call it trafficking, all of a sudden it's like a way bigger deal. Like if your intention to sell or something.
yeah, exactly. But here I wouldn't give a shit about smoking in public. I've smoked in crazy places, man, like
Yeah.
chairlifts. That was the funniest one.
Right.
Like, again, I don't give a shit. Like, if someone was to like tell you off for smoking weed, then it's like that person's a dick for telling you. But
Right.
then if I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
drinking alcohol, then it'd be okay, right?
You're right. Yeah.
Because I
No.
remember once we're at a bar, I think a few months ago, sorry, and we like smoked the joint in the smokers area at a
Oh,
club.
really? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, like, yeah, we really don't give a shit. And then the security guards just came running past, and they're like, and I tell you what's funny, he takes a drag. Yep, this is weed.
That's hilarious.
Funniest dude ever. Yeah, because my friend made friends with this dude, so he was all cool. He didn't kick us out. But
Right.
it's just funny how they go nuts. How people go like, oh, he's smoking marijuana while they're
Right.
drinking this carcinogenic poison. It's just it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
bizarre to me, but
Yeah, no,
I laugh about it
it
though.
has gotten pretty social. Like to see it being so socially acceptable, but then so illegal at the same time. It's like such a confusing, weird thing for like
It
a
is,
young
yeah.
person to grow up with. It's just like so
Yeah.
hypocritical and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, because my parents hated that shit. Like my mom, she's like a old school Catholic
Oh
kind
yeah,
of lady. Yeah, she fucking hates weed, like the devil and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
who cares? It's good.
I was gonna say too, when we were talking about before, like the dangers of like psychedelics, and what you were mentioning with yourself and your girl. Like I had someone close to me that I was with doing mushrooms, and they had a really scary experience, and it was scary for me too being with them because it was basically similar to what you were describing, where they were just like they kept repeating like, oh my god, I'm going crazy, like, oh, I'm losing my mind, oh my god, everyone's crazy, oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like they got caught in this loop, and I kind of lost them for a bit. Like I couldn't connect with them, I couldn't converse
Mm.
with them, and that was scary. It was like, oh man, like I hope this person comes back in some way that I can communicate with, and that can be
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
terrifying. But I
it
mean,
can be because
she did come
yeah,
back. I'll say that, it
yeah, she
worked
did,
out.
yeah, because I saw my girlfriend go into a complete like split personality fucking episode,
Hmm.
like full on actually having conversations like, oh, what do you mean? We're like, huh? What? Huh? And like full on
Oh,
talking to like these other entities and shit. And
whoa,
like
crazy.
I wasn't freaked out like, oh, she's not gonna come back. I was laughing about it, but a little bit of me was like, oh shit.
Right, yeah.
I broke my girlfriend.
Yeah, that is a little,
uh,
yeah, that would be scary.
because but it changed her life forever. Like it was
Hmm.
so beneficial for her, and she's really scared of going to Peru because she's only had 2 mushroom experiences. That's her only psychedelic experience.
Okay.
She's never done LSD. We're actually going to do LSD, I think, next month.
Hmm.
For the first time together. I've never tripped with her once before,
Oh
so
yeah.
this will be interesting. And LSD is not something I've taken a couple times in my life, but I've never done it with a pure intention. You know what I mean? For like
Hmm.
self growth. I've only done it in like a recreational setting, so
Right.
it'll be interesting. Yeah, because I just want to experiment, see how it is, and then
Yeah.
see
No,
how we
some
go from
people
there.
really
But
like LSD. I've never tried. Well, no, I haven't
yeah,
really tried it. But some people talk about like a therapeutic
some people
dose of
love it.
LSD being like really beneficial for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I want to try it because I have a channel about psychedelics, so I should at least try it in a
Right.
proper setting. You know what I mean? Because I come
Yeah.
to like, no, mushrooms is the best one, but I think it's
Right.
different for everybody, obviously, because
Yeah. Yeah.
like, different chemicals are going to react to different people.
Right.
Yeah. But with that as well, because my girlfriend, she's never done ayahuasca, and she's going to do like San Pedro and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's quite the trip she's gonna go on with having a little experience.
oh yeah. So she's really, really, really nervous about it.
Hmm.
Um,
That's probably a
yeah,
good
she'll
thing
be.
though. Like really, like being nervous makes you be prepared for stuff, you know, like to take it
Yeah, because
seriously.
you should be scared, man. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like these aren't things. If you're not scared or at least a little bit nervous, then something's wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Something's up.
I get
That's when I would
super
be
nervous.
concerned.
Like I've done mushrooms more than anything other than smoking weed. I probably smoke weed more than mushrooms, but still, and anytime I do mushrooms,
Yeah.
I get really nervous about it. I'm like, oh God, like I know it's gonna be like kind of like stressful at the beginning. I get kind of anxious as it comes
Whew, that
on. Like,
anxiety. Yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy,
yeah,
huh?
yeah. I kind of
Yeah.
dread
Have you had
doing it.
DMT before?
No, only like in ayahuasca form. I've never smoked DMT.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had some tough experiences with the
That
DMT.
shit's scary because that's like I had DMT about maybe 6 weeks ago, and before that it
Hmm.
was 2 years,
Okay.
right? Which was for ayahuasca. I've recorded a trip report which I'll release on Sunday. That should be interesting. But yeah, that's when I came into contact with like these kind of jester trickster type entities,
Okay.
and it
Yeah.
was like this kind of hellish realm and like
Hmm.
scary, yeah, really scary stuff. Because DMT, I know it's only like a 10-minute trip, but obviously time is irrelevant in the psychedelic realm.
Right.
And yeah, like I don't. DMT makes me more nervous than any psychedelic I've ever tried, and
Right.
that's like I've gone to that, in the middle of the Amazon by myself, drinking this tea, and
Right.
DMT makes me more nervous.
Hmm. So
It's
what? Why
yeah,
is
really,
that?
really.
Like, why does it make you so nervous?
I, it's just anxiety, and this is like before even the first time I ever tried DMT, I got this huge rush of anxiety. I'm like, ooh, I was so excited for it. I was like
Hmm.
looking for this stuff for like 2 years. I finally got it, had the bong in my hand, and then, ooh, shit.
Like just
Am I ready to
before you
go
take
in
it, or just
this
after
round?
you took it?
Yeah, like just before.
Oh, okay.
Just
Yeah.
before. That's when you get hardcore anxiety.
So
Yeah,
so yeah, like
I even
describe.
get nervous to
I
think
mean,
about it. Yeah,
you don't have to like give away your whole trip report that you're gonna release
yeah,
on Sunday, but
that's okay.
like
Yeah.
what like when you were talking about, I don't know which one it was, if it was the recent one or the one years ago, but that was really like challenging. Which one was that?
Well, I'll go. The one that I had before I went to Peru. That's when I faced, like, I saw these all these demonic entities. Before I saw the demonic entity, I saw this jester archetype just go past.
Hmm.
And 2 years ago, I didn't think of anything of it, and just recently, I'm starting to understand it and kind of why it's presenting itself to me. But anyways, yeah. So I saw a lot of these demonic entities, and they were just like threatening me and like, "We're gonna fuck you up, especially when you go to Peru. You
Oh,
just wait,
oh,
motherfucker."
what?
And what was the scariest shit was that it was in my voice. It was my voice. I
Wow, yeah,
was
that is
like,
crazy.
and then yeah, like this. But then this angelic kind of voice came over and said, "All right, don't worry, Tom. You don't have to worry about this quite yet, but just yeah, kind of prepare yourself. You're gonna
Huh.
go in through some pretty hardcore shit." And my first ayahuasca ceremony was still the most challenging experience I've ever had in my life.
Hmm.
Pretty full on.
With
Like it's yeah, because I got to that place where that full on hopelessness, like I'm fucked, I'm gonna be crazy forever.
uh
Even if I die, I'm gonna go to this hellish realm. So like, I can't even kill myself
just
because
no hope
I'm
whatsoever.
just gonna go there. Like that was
Wow.
the place I was in, man. Like
Wow.
crying, bawling my eyes out. Yeah, it was full on. It's beautiful now because I that helped me have the beautiful experience the next ceremony.
Right.
But just during it could be scary. And then the last DMT trip I had, and I just had a little bit. So because I haven't full on broke through, I haven't had the breakthrough DMT experience quite
Breakthrough
yet.
being like,
So
is that like when you
like
lose all sense of
I
yourself kind of thing?
yeah, that's like complete ego death. You leave this dimension completely. Whereas all these DMT trips that I've had, like, yeah, I've seen all this stuff and I've gone to different dimensions and this and that, but I was always aware that I was still in my body. I was still
Yeah.
in my room. You get
Right.
me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what I don't know. Maybe that's just my preconception of what a breakthrough DMT
That's
trip
what
is, but
that's
it
what,
seems that's
yeah,
the
I
general
hear as well.
consensus. So I just had a little bit because I was picking up DMT from a friend, and they were smoking this stuff around. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to have a little bit of a taste.
I
And I
see.
went straight back to that realm, like the exact same realm, which I
Wow.
went into, full of these jester trickster type
Hmm.
entities, and they were all waiting for me. So it's like, as soon as I smoked DMT, it's like they were waiting for me to enter that realm. Like, yes, we got you, motherfucker. Like you're fine,
Oh my God.
you fell into our trap. I was like, fuck. But I was resisting the whole time. And I go into my trip report, but the problem is that I had the intention of having just a little bit of of an experience. Whereas DMT is one of those substances where it's like all or nothing.
Yeah, it
Because
seems
if you
that
have just
way.
a little bit, your ego has enough power to throw all this resistance and fear and all this kind of stuff, which is going to kind of stop you from pushing through.
Right.
So yeah, I was resisting. I did it in the wrong setting. I smoked weed beforehand, which is a horrible idea in my opinion. Um, like before a psychedelic trip, you know what I mean? Like I love
Yeah.
weed by itself, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
psychedelics. It's like too much for me. So yeah, pretty scary shit.
Yeah.
But I've started like researching like the jester archetype and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, I've heard lots
it
about that,
seems
like
that
the trickster kind of character.
yeah, the trickster thing and like it's a pretty big topic, but so I'm not
Yeah.
going to get into it now. But long story short, I think that that's the representation of my shadow self. So it's like me, right? Or like a symbol of me, of my shadow self that's trying to kind of show me something that I've been kind of avoiding, that I've been pushing away.
That's
So,
funny. So because I was going to ask,
yeah.
like DMT, it seems like that's like a very common occurrence with DMT is for people to encounter just other entities or other things, like conscious beings of something. But you're kind of breaking it down. You're getting to a level where you think that's it's part of you that you're seeing.
Yeah. Well, I think because like I think we're all one in this universe. Everything's connected, and it's not that it's necessarily me in a literal sense, but more as like a representation of a part of me, which is why it's coming into my field of consciousness, right? That's what I think now. Like everything will get confirmed once I actually break through, which I'm not in a rush to do, but yeah, when the time when it feels right, I'll do it. But it makes sense because I've been reading a lot about like Carl Jung and how he explains the archetypes.
Oh yeah, okay.
And a lot of the characteristics of the jester really resonates with myself, especially like the shadow part of myself. So it makes sense because like, why am I returning to these same realms?
Right.
It's not like I'm going to a different place and just having a scary trip. It's like, no, I'm going to the exact same fucking realm,
right?
And which I haven't really kind of pushed through. I've just been resisting the whole time. So yeah,
I do find it fascinating though, that idea that it seems like it is DMT specific that seems to bring on that experience anyway of encountering other things, other beings or whatever. Like I had that, like the only time I've ever experienced something like that was on ayahuasca. And I had already done mushrooms many times, and I've never had an experience where I was really convinced I was encountering any conscious being. And I know some people do talk about that with mushrooms. Kalindi talks about that. Like encountering
high enough doses, I'm sure you can.
Yeah, but for me, I hadn't really experienced that. But when I did ayahuasca, we did it 4 times total, and the third night when I did it, I took way more ayahuasca than I had the previous nights, and and that was like the biggest sort of most potent experience for me. And it was that night that I did. I felt the presence of like 3 little spirits that were like kind of like hovering near my head. Seemed like they were doing something, buzzing on my head. And what was cool about that was that 2 other people at the retreat described the exact same things, doing the exact same things to them. And that really blew my mind.
That same night.
Yeah, one of them the same night and one of them a previous night. And I didn't even have to describe the things. They described them to me, and I was like, oh shit, that's like the exact same thing. So that really blew my mind a little bit. And that was the only experience I've ever had with something like that.
That's what's weird, yeah. That's what convinces me that these can't just be mere hallucinations, because you have all these different people who've seen the same entities, who've gone to the same realms.
Yeah.
And if they're just hallucinations in your own mind, then why are we going to the same places?
Yeah.
And you hear people who trip together and they see the same shit. So it's like, how does that make sense?
I know some people explain it with some type of like shared experience type of thing, but I don't really get it. It doesn't really resonate with me, because it does, like, there's been so many people like Terrence McKenna who really talk about these little machine elves, or however he puts it. And
machine elves, I haven't gone into contact with the machine elves yet.
Yeah, I've never encountered them either. But
maybe when I break through.
But I think
that's going to be terrifying.
Seem to describe like these similar things, like just encountering these beings, and when so many people describe them, it's hard to ignore it as just like whatever,
Exactly. You got to look at the consistency. That's the thing. It's not just 1 or 2 people saying it. It's like thousands, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's funny that you, like, when you talk about each time you've mentioned either you or your girlfriend having a really like challenging, scary type of experience, you also mentioned that like later you look back and you're like happy you went through it almost, or like you learned something from it, or you took
Yeah,
something.
for sure. Right. Well, it's part of duality, right? And it feels like I find that bad trips, especially if you assuming that you get through the experience and you understand it and this and that, but they're really the most beneficial ones in disguise if you integrate it. That's what I found, because they're the ones that shake you up, like, oh shit, I've got to get my life in order. What the fuck?
Right.
Versus just seeing, fairies and dragons and all that kind of stuff. Even
Right.
though I've never seen fairies and dragons, I don't know where that rumor came from.
Just what people imagine, yeah.
Yeah, because people say like, yeah, when you take LSD, you see magical dragons and this and that.
Yeah,
And
it's this
when I
weird
took
idea.
LSD for the first time, I'm like, this is bullshit. What are the dragons, man?
Yeah, that's all like
Yeah,
Hollywood stuff.
It's not exactly. It's not that. It would be cool seeing a dragon, but nah,
Yeah.
never seen a
I'm
dragon.
glad you mentioned that, actually, the duality stuff, because that was a video I really liked that you made when you talked about that idea of duality, and it seemed like something you had learned from some of these psychedelic experiences. Is this idea that we live in this dual world where there's a balance to everything, and that was a really cool video that you made.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you can't have good without bad, light without dark, so on and so forth. It's like, and everything in this, because even if you look at it on a vibrational level, everything is waves, right?
Right.
So everything we are, I guess you look at the shadow aspects of ourselves, that's half of who we are. It's not just a little bit. Our ego likes to push it aside and not like to deal with it. But yeah, man, like it's all balanced. Everything's
right. It's about embracing that, like, yeah, like I really I thought about that a lot after watching that video you made, because because there is like that duality to everything, where there's masculine, feminine, light, dark, etc., etc. It goes on and on, positive, negative.
Binary, ones and zeros.
Yeah. And you, if you want to be happy, this is kind of like what I've been trying to embrace more and more, is like, and maybe not, happy might not be the right word, but you really do have to embrace both sides. Like, you can't just be looking to be like happy all the time, because otherwise you got to embrace that you are going to have challenging times, you are going to be stressed and anxious and whatever. And that's just the duality. That's just the good and bad of how we live.
Yeah, it's a part of life. You just got to embrace this huge spectrum of emotions that we humans have.
Yeah.
Oof, mosquito. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty cool spot to end it. And yeah, I mean, thanks a lot for talking to me. I really appreciate you taking the time and just having a fun conversation with me.
Yeah, man, this has been really fun. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah.
Really cool.
All right, cool. I'll end it there. Yeah. Done. High five. Thanks.
Done. All right. Peace out, guys.